We're going to talk about the world's greatest players on today's episode, the Ballon d'Or. This time, it was Ousmane Dembele, PSG. Of course, you need to win something big to be given the biggest individual award. Will we agree on that, guys? It is the biggest individual award?
Yeah,
Ballon d'Or?
absolutely.
Scott McTominay, 18th. Lautaro Martinez, 20th. Big gap between French league player, Italian league player. We're going to get into the nuts and bolts of why no one in Serie A is winning the Ballon d'Or. No Italians are winning the Ballon d'Or. Let's get into it. So, Scott McTominay and Lautaro Martinez, did they deserve better? That's the first question.
I thought McTominay deserved better, considering what he did for Napoli, how big of a clutch player he was, especially in the final straight last season. You know, more or less being the player that helped Napoli bring the Scudetto back to Naples. I'm not saying he should have been top 10, but maybe somewhere between 10th, 11th, 12th. I think he could have definitely moved up the gears. Lautaro Martinez, I think it's a different case. He definitely wasn't as good last season as he was the year that Inter won the title. So I think his position is about right. But yeah, I definitely do think McTominay could have done better.
Okay, Dan, question for you. Do you think Martinez would have gone up the rankings had Inter won the Champions League instead of PSG? Would he have won it?
It would have gone up the rankings. Probably would have been, I don't know, top 10, top 15. But he would not have won it.
So does a player have to win a big trophy to win a Ballon d'Or? Because it feels like it.
Yes and no, because the Ballon d'Or is largely a popularity contest these days. Insofar as you need to have a certain profile. Your profile is helped by playing for a big team, winning big trophies. To a degree, that's always been the case. But it just feels increasingly like we have reached a stage where you need to play for certain clubs to win the Ballon d'Or. That is not to say that Dembele doesn't deserve it, but to answer your question, had Inter Milan won the Champions League, had they won perhaps even the treble, Martinez would not have won the Ballon d'Or.
Well, I think even within that, I think we can all agree that Martinez wasn't Inter's standout player in Europe.
No,
Inter
exactly.
as a team functioned really well, but Marcus Thuram was equally as responsible for getting Inter to the final as Lautaro. So I don't think even if Inter had won everything, I don't think he would have even cracked the top four.
No,
Okay, so based on previous years where you've pretty much had to win the Champions League, the World Cup, or the Euros to win this trophy, this award, surely if Inter won the Champions League in a year where there's not much else going on in terms of international tournaments, the FIFA Club World Cup isn't a real thing. It doesn't really count for anything. So surely it would have to be Inter going on that trend, an Inter player. There's that discussion there to be had.
There is a discussion there to be had, and I think it speaks to the fact that Serie A has a lot of really good players, but as we said before on this podcast, the real stars in Serie A are the coaches because they get the most out of their players, and that translates into Serie A not having the biggest stars at the minute. And by biggest star, I don't mean that they don't have great players. They do have great players, but there isn't a player that you're thinking, oh, it is just, like Lamine Yamal or Leo Messi or Ronaldo. They are great players, but they are all put together to be more than some of their parts.
Yeah.
And that's been the case now for, I'll say, the last big star to play in Serie A was probably Ronaldo at Juventus. Martinez is not at that level.
No. I think if you were doing the top 100 players in the world, say, I would say a lot of Serie A's players would be from 100 to maybe 50. You may get one or two that would crack the top 40, but the majority of Serie A's players, while very good, as Dan says, they're kind of in, 100 to 50. And to win the Ballon d'Or, you need to be at least in the top 20.
And we can, I think there is also an element of that goes back to how Serie A is no longer the best league in the world, and obviously being exposure to a bigger audience will increase the player's profile, will increase the team's profile. But ultimately, as Emmet says, Serie A has got a lot of really good players, some great players, but I don't think he's got this. It doesn't have the player that you think straight away. You wouldn't watch Serie A to watch, I don't know, it was McTominay or to watch Romelu Lukaku. And I'm saying this as someone, if you were based in a different country, you build and Serie A was on TV, I think a lot of people will struggle to think of a player that is easily identifiable. Whether when you think of Barcelona, I don't watch La Liga, but you think of Barcelona, I think
that was my next question. Who's watching the French league and the Spanish league?
Of course,
mostly?
But because PSG through their spending have been so close to win the Champions League for so often, they obviously won the last season. They had Mbappe, they had Messi, and this goes back to what I was saying earlier. I think we're in an age where people don't watch teams, they watch the players.
Yeah, we are in an era of individualism.
Yeah.
You know, fans follow players. They don't follow teams like they used to.
Yeah.
I remember when Juve signed Ronaldo, Juve gained like 5 million Instagram followers in the space of 24 hours.
It's the only reason why Sky Sports picked up their rights to the Saudi League, because they knew that people would watch Ronaldo play in Saudi Arabia.
And now we may for nothing, but yeah.
Yeah, we may not do it, but there is a demographic which is increasingly the demographic that the broadcasters and, podcasts as well speak to is about individualism of the players, as Emmet said.
Sure. But look, let us know what you think in the comments about this topic here. But I will throw to you that since the Ballon d'Or's inception in the early days, we're talking 60s, 70s, that era there, through the 80s, 90s and noughties, until the noughties, football wasn't really a global game. I would put it to you guys that the game has expanded. Therefore, there is that demographic that never had a team. They came into it because of Ronaldo and Messi. We've seen fights in certain countries and between fans of both. They actually have fist fights over who's better. That's how passionate they are. But they're not traditional football followers of European sides. They're the ones coming in to follow Messi and Ronaldo and follow the players around. I would put it to you guys. But they were never football fans previously. They didn't come from families that were football fans. You look through India, for example, cricket, hockey, massive. Soccer, not so much. They don't qualify for World Cups. The caliber there isn't that good, but still massive football population. And Calcio Ciao, if you're watching, thanks for tuning in. And there is a big Serie A football following there. But I will put it to you guys, they've only just joined the party in a historical sense, chronologically speaking. They're the guys that follow these players. And it kind of, when you match up the timeline here, let's go to the Ballon d'Or winner by year. You will see from the Messi and Ronaldo domination, the duopoly, 2008, 2009, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18 is when Modric won it. All those other previous years I just stated, it was Messi or Ronaldo. That's basically a monopolization of football fans right there between those two brands, Ronaldo and Messi. And those agents have been playing to it.
That is a significant other element within those 15 years you mentioned, and that's the unstoppable rise of social media.
Exactly.
Football is a game of clips these days. You don't people of a certain age don't watch 90 minutes. Not all of them by any means, but the majority of them consume football through snippets, and it's all become that. Like the Ballon d'Or now is a conversation that runs for 12 months a year. This never used to be the case. Growing up, you will someone has won the Ballon d'Or because you will see them on the front pages of Shoot magazine over here in Britain or on France Football.
Or it would only be mentioned in your country if you happen to be there.
Or on a Gazzetta in Italy, but it was never this all-encompassing, huge behemoth of an award.
It wasn't even an event, the Ballon d'Or.
No.
When Robbie Baggio won it in '93, he flew to Paris. And he was in the TV studio and he picked up the award and then went home.
Yeah.
That was it.
Yeah.
It wasn't this pomp and
the
dance parade that it is now.
The only thing that
because football came first, the awards came later.
Yeah.
Do you talking on the pitch?
Yeah.
Be humble.
The Ballon d'Or had, if anything, had the sort of a reputation in Italy for being how Berlusconi decided Milan's next signings, because he will famously, the story is that he will look at the top 5 or top 10 and run his eyes over the list to go, we don't have that player, and then tell Galliani to go and sign him.
Yeah.
That was the extent of it. And now, we're talking about someone scores a goal in August and you get people on social media or on TV going, that puts my head in the race for the Ballon d'Or. That would never used to be the case.
Yeah. I mean, we've seen I can't remember what game it was now, but it's the infamous clip of Rio Ferdinand. I think it was Real Madrid were playing.
It was Real Madrid playing. Was it Man City in the Champions League? I think it might have been.
Yeah, and I think it was Vinicius Junior, and
Yeah.
he just shouted Ballon d'Or 13 times in a row. Ballon d'Or, Ballon d'Or, as if like that's the first thing that comes into your mind when a team's playing at a high stakes game.
Yeah.
Like, how have we got to this point?
But I think the social media aspects of this, it's mind-boggling, to be honest. It really is. But yeah, the rise of social media, that's brought in a whole new fan base
because
in every country.
It has also allowed people who are consistently trying to find an agenda against their team to use the Ballon d'Or as proof that there is in fact an agenda against their team. Oh, Virgil van Dijk hasn't won Ballon d'Or. Oh, there is an anti-Liverpool agenda. Marcus Rashford hasn't won the Ballon d'Or. Oh, there is an
The football conspiracy theories can go on forever, but and I love them. I love them all. I love to hear the arguments.
You're the worst of them all.
In the schoolyard, I hear this stuff.
But it's also that individualism has also seeped into players. Because obviously you have the case when Neymar left Barcelona with Messi, with Suarez, to go to PSG because he wanted to step out of Messi's shadow, be the main man, and win a Ballon d'Or. Basically, all the things that Dembele has now done, Neymar wanted to do first. And they also have clauses in contracts now saying if I win the Ballon d'Or, I'll get X amount of money. Where it never used to be like that.
But it's selfish because back in Badgel's day, let's use him as the example, he wasn't moving around clubs to win a Ballon d'Or or so that he could win that trophy. He was just a great player.
Yeah, and he
the
moved,
best of his age.
and he moved clubs so he could stay in the A for the Azzurri.
Yeah.
That's all that mattered
Put
to
the
him.
national team first. That was the mentality back then, which is totally
it's
reversed
not-
these days.
And also, back when, the year you're talking about, there is also the fact that you could really become the best player in the world even by winning the UEFA Cup because only the best of the best was in the European Cup, as you were. So the other European competition were a much higher level than they are now. And you could win the UEFA Cup having to beat the team that came second in Germany, the team that came second in Italy.
Newsflash, new fans, the Champions League was only about the champions for a long time when it was called the European Cup, just in case you need that dip back into history.
And in a lot of ways, just as a bit of a side tangent, the UEFA Cup was harder to win because you had second, third, fourth in each prospective league.
exactly.
Whereas the European,
and the leagues were closer.
Yeah.
Players, there was that rule with maximum 3 foreigners.
3 foreigners, yeah.
So you had 8 Italians, 8 English playing against each other all the time in their respective leagues. And then, therefore, the competition was way more even in Europe.
Yeah.
And of course, you would get your superstar teams, but even the likes of Red Star Belgrade would go and win something. And it plays into my next point because I want to talk about player hoarding by certain clubs. And that's what PSG have done because the French league, by nature, you wouldn't think, you would have thought it in the 90s with Marseille, even Monaco, teams became great.
Yeah.
And these days, the French league suffers from what the Italian league does in the fact that they don't splurge on big wages like the Premier League does, or Real Madrid or Barca. So we've got the Messi and Ronaldo era. They both played for the 2 biggest clubs in Spain. Those 2 clubs traditionally stack their team with the best players from their league to strengthen themselves, of course, weaken the competition. PSG's done it. They've been doing it since their takeover because we all know PSG's history. They were tiny. They wouldn't win a thing. And then you've got Serie A, who may have in their day, through star power and through having that pedigree, attracted the big players because they all wanted to play there. But the competition was so even that the good players, Zico was at Udinese, Maradona at Napoli, players were playing for the bottom teams, the bottom feeders of Serie A. Totally different. It was upside down compared to now. So we had, my point is, so much competition in Serie A, and it even shows now because the probably top 8, you got Moise Kean at Fiorentina, for example. We can talk about Lautaro Martinez at Inter, but we have that more of an evenness that goes through, more equilibrium that goes through the top teams. Therefore, there's no real player hoarding. Yes, Inter can attract them because they pay the most wages. Juventus do the same thing, but it's just not there. There's not that 2 club tier system or a PSG against a bunch of, no offense to French league supporters, but it is quite weak after PSG. Well, there's a big discrepancy. Marseille's a great club.
Yeah.
The other ones are great too, but I'm talking the balance of power is all with PSG there. Most of it is. So then we look at the Premier League. They can attract all the best players in the world. So they're starving Serie A of that star power as well. So we've got player hoarding. We can see with Barcelona and Real Madrid, they were doing that. Messi was therefore able to play in a better team. We've heard Totti say if he played at Roma, would never have won a Ballon d'Or. Let's be honest. Totti probably deserved one. Like I said, Pirlo never won one. And lots of other great players from that era. Iniesta never won one. That's because Messi and Ronaldo were always fighting it out. And we've had that two-tier system. Ronaldo, Messi. There's been that war of words between all the fans. Social media joining in now to sort of escalate the hype. We've seen the Ballon d'Or become like a Oscars, like it's actually something that never used to be a thing. So all the players are hoarded. Serie A doesn't have that. Is that why Serie A clubs can't win the Champions League first and foremost? Because they've been in finals, and it all is about that 90 minutes. You don't play finals, you win or lose finals. Can't win one, can't win a Ballon d'Or. Surely that whole hoarding of players from the likes of PSG and Real Madrid and Manchester City, they win them. They win the Ballon d'Or. Their players win Ballon d'Ors.
I think it's a case of Serie A, like we alluded to, has a lot of great teams and emphasis on the word team. There's not a lot of star players, but they function very well as a team. If there was Ballon d'Or for coaches, Italian coaches would win it more often than not because they're, in a way, they are the star player of modern Serie A. Like Simone Inzaghi got into that Champions League final.
The FIFA Best Awards more for that.
Yeah, exactly. So I think that it'll be a while before we see a Serie A winner of the Ballon d'Or or an Italian winner of the Ballon d'Or. But I think it's just the concentration of talent is in other leagues because that's where the money is. As we know, money talks. And unless there was a massive takeover, I know, from a Saudi owner or whatever of an Italian team, and even with financial fair play, I just think Serie A has almost like become locked in this system where it can't spend its way out anymore. It has to invest in stadiums. It has to do things properly. So until they get the new stadiums and then they get the revenue and blah, 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 blah.
Sure. But you can still attract players through high wages. You don't necessarily need to go and buy players because agents and players use that leverage against clubs. Rabiot, we've seen Ramsey, all these other players come. Look at the likes of, even Akanji. He's going to be a lot less. If he's coming out of contract, they'll be able to sell him for a pittance and he gets his massive wage that he was getting, but at Inter.
I don't think it's just a case of spending their way out there because the Premier League is by far and away, I think we can all accept this, by far and away the best league in the world. It's got the best players. It's got
if it goes on best players, there's an argument to be made because I think Barcelona, Real Madrid, PSG could counter that.
I will say that if you were to, you could probably pick a couple of players from Barcelona and Real Madrid, but generally speaking, it has the best players and it has the most teams that can win the league because in Spain it's Barcelona, Real Madrid, and Atletico occasionally. So for the sake of argument, let's just say that let's accept the wisdom.
We'll say there's 4 teams that could potentially win the Premier League.
Yeah.
Okay.
But the Premier League has only had 2 Ballon d'Or winners in the last 15 years when Serie A was at its peak.
Well, there's proof there that you only win the Ballon d'Or if you win the Champions League.
Well, exactly. That's what I'm saying. When Serie A was at its peak, a Serie A player won the Ballon d'Or in 10 out of 13 years between 1982 and 1995.
But Emmet, surely that's because they were actually the best back then, a different era.
But that's the point I'm making. Like, the Ballon d'Or now is, I don't think he relies on the league anymore because if he did rely on the league, then Mo Salah would have won it.
He would have won one, absolutely.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's just a case of the Champions League is becoming this enormous, sort of, not even a competition anymore. It's just like an all-encompassing, like a TV series, like a media phenomenon that is so big that it simply cannot be ignored.
And even Haaland was unlucky because he came second to Messi in 2023.
Yeah.
Messi won the World Cup a few months before.
I mean, you go back to 2005 when Liverpool won the Champions League. Steven Gerrard finished second. If that were to happen now, he would the Ballon d'Or given to him soon after the final. After the final
Ronaldinho won it that year.
Yeah.
Lampard third.
I think the Ballon d'Or,
Lampard second. Sorry.
Obviously,
Gerrard third.
at the end of the day, it's decided by journalists, football journalists from around Europe. But I think it's almost like the criteria has shifted
Are
over
they too
the years.
scared to actually tell it how it is and should be?
I think so, because like as Dan's point, like when Andrei Shevchenko won it in 2004, he won it for delivering a Scudetto with Milan, and he was capo canoniere. Like Milan got knocked out of the Champions League quarter-final by Deportivo, so they didn't win in Europe, but he won it because A, he was the best striker in Europe and had been for the last 3 or 4 years, but B, he won it based off a season at the league level. It wasn't really anything to do with Europe.
Exactly.
You will never, I don't think you will get that again, because it's almost like the profile of the Ballon d'Or and what it takes to win it. As we've said off air, it's either you win the Champions League in a starring role or you win the World Cup in a starring
And
role.
it's almost got to the point now where the Ballon d'Or in the 80s, 90s, early 2000s, there was a case of people pushing back against strikers winning it, because the idea was that if you are a striker and you score goals, you're obviously going to stand out a lot more than a defender. But now we've reached a dynamic where if you score goals, you get penalised, because Lewandowski should have won a Ballon d'Or. He came close to win it.
And then they cancelled it because of COVID.
Yeah, and
That was
then
scandalous.
And then the following season, a lot of people were suggesting, well, he only scores goals. It doesn't have like the sort of
it's a moving of the
eye
goalposts.
catching skills.
Exactly. Yeah.
Is there an argument to be made that some of these journalists simply they know how to write, but they don't actually know football well enough? Are they just jumping on bandwagons because they want the clicks, they want the articles to, the biggest players to write about all the time, so they're always on the back page of a newspaper? What's happening here?
I think it's a case of
Are they working with clubs and agents? Do you think?
no. I think it's far simpler than that. I think that just as the demographic of people who watch football have changed, the demographic of people who write about football have changed.
Yeah, I think as you said, David, the goalposts keep getting moved.
Yeah.
30 years ago, scoring 25 goals in a season would have been enough. But now, young people want to be entertained, excited. They want the Kvaratskhelia who's got the flicks and the tricks and whatever else.
Because they're few and far between. Yamal is like, back in the day, I mean, he's exceptional, and he would have easily slotted into any Serie A side in the 90s. Brilliant player.
Yeah.
But they're few and far between now.
The problem when you have like a problem, I mean, it's obviously a great problem to have for Barcelona, but the problem when you have Messi scoring 60 goals in a season, because he plays in a team that is so much better than anybody else in Spain but Real Madrid, then it sets a standard that is like you can't come anywhere near the standard if you play in a league that is more competitive, which is my point about the Premier League. I'm not saying that during the last 15 years the Premier League had better players than Messi, but players that probably would have deserved the award. But it gets to the point where you have people saying, well, but it's not scoring 60 goals a season. Yeah. No one else can. No one else ever did.
And there was a Messi Ronaldo bias because it raised the profile of the award by giving it to them. I think, we can, all the three of us can look back to 2010. Wesley Sneijder was robbed. I still maintain that.
Yeah.
He delivered a treble to Inter, playing as a number 10, one of the key men.
By far the best team in Champions League.
Yeah,
as well.
He took Holland to the final of the World Cup, scored 5 goals, and he didn't even finish on the podium.
Yeah.
He finished 4th. I'm like, come on, what are we doing
And
here,
also,
lads?
like, this emphasis on goals is sort of turned the Ballon d'Or into the Golden Boot. I think it's very much a case of now, like, the same dynamic that you get in American sports, where are you voting for the best player, or are you voting for the most valuable player to a team that has won something?
Yeah.
Well, let us know your thoughts. Is there a bias happening? Do journalists know their stuff? What Serie A player has the most chance to actually win a Ballon d'Or in the coming years? Depends on who obviously joins, but is there a player in your mind? So I think Ousmane should have done better when he got 8th when Napoli won the Scudetto in 2023. I thought maybe even podium finish would have been a breakthrough as well for Nigeria.
I would have said Kvaratskhelia had he stayed in Napoli.
Yeah.
Is there a Serie A player?
Obviously, McTominay at the highest ranked this season.
Yeah.
But I feel like he probably could have deserved maybe top dozen, especially for dragging aside.
I mean,
probably shouldn't have won the Scudetto to the Scudetto.
You're gonna laugh at these, but the Serie A player with the best chance to win the Ballon d'Or is probably Rafael Leao.
Yeah,
because he's got the
intangible quality.
He's got that.
He's got the Messi Ronaldo vibe about him, where he does have the trickery.
Yeah,
he's got the fantasia about him.
He's got the aura about him. Not like the trickery, as you said. Like you can see him, the sort of player who's clips get retweeted and shared on Instagram. But is he going to do it for like an entire season? I can't see it.
Hypothetical, if Napoli go and win the Champions League and win the Scudetto, and De Bruyne is an amazing player, would they give it to
that
him?
would be actually yes, because
Star power?
And also sort of like with some players, I think there is a feel of like rewarding their career. Modric,
you get a
Well,
lot
that's
of
Messi in 2023.
like Modric
with his
was
gold watch.
Yeah.
Modric was a lifetime achievement award.
Yeah.
You know, same as Messi in 2023, whatever. And but you get that over the years. You do get awards. It's like, well, it's like Scorsese getting the Oscar for The Departed in 2006, but he never got it for Raging Bull or Goodfellas or Casino. It's like, oh, we'll give it to him now.
Yeah, it's like when Ryan,
start our own movie podcast.
Ryan won BBC Personality of the Year when it was 39 or 40. Again, probably a better season, but it was a lifetime.
Yeah.
Okay, the last Italian to finish on the podium was Jorginho.
Yeah.
Okay, so that's 2019, finished third behind Van Dijk and Messi.
I mean, if that doesn't speak of the dire state of Italian football or football in general, nothing against Jorginho, but Jorginho.
Well, Chelsea won titles. They won a Champions League, and again, it would have bumped him up the rankings.
And he's not even Italian; he's Brazilian.
Well, hang on. Has been in the country, and he does have Italian roots, and has been in Verona basically since the age of 13, 14.
But he's still bitter about the Moratti passport shenanigans of 1997.
It's not exactly, Eddie Berto levels here. So
actually, we should do a podcast on Heriberto.
He's only 21, Heriberto.
Yeah,
Even
get
now.
out the old Chievo kits. It looks like that Parma one you're wearing, Dan. But one more question before we wrap it up, and we want you to tell us your thoughts on this as well in the comments. Will any of these young Italians that we're talking about now, Pio Esposito, I'm not sure who else that we could mention.
Leone?
No, Leone, it's certainly not. We're talking about Ballon d'Or discussion in the future. Is there someone you can predict besides Pio Esposito? If he can become a Haaland-esque kind of deliverer of goals?
I think, as Dan said, I think no, because I don't think Serie A and Italian players have a high enough profile.
Because Cazorla had the promise, but we've all seen what's happened since.
Yeah, I mean, so did Arturo Lupoli at like Arsenal.
Makeda United. That was a good one to finish up with. From Ballon d'Or to Makeda and Lupoli. Okay, let us know your thoughts about the Ballon d'Or. Of course, congratulations going out to Ousmane Dembele for winning the 2025 edition. Where will Italians be next year? And where will Serie A players be next year? Let us know.